Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Masterclass here at Montgomery County Community College. Yay! Believe it or not, this is our 18th Masterclass since we started in 2018. So we're very happy to have our 18th Masterclass guest, Will Toms. Thank you very much. Let's give it up for Will, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. It's a pleasure to be here.
Not only is he one of the prime founders of Rec Philly, which he'll get into more, but he also is an author of this book, Uncommon Sense. And he'll talk more about that book as well in today's Masterclass. So let me take it over. Will, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and Rec Philly?
Sure, yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say I'm really happy to be here, to be sitting next to you, who I consider a legend, really grateful. But yeah, what's up, y'all? My name is Will Toms. As mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Rec Philly. Rec is an acronym, Resources for Every Creator. And we really exist for one reason and one reason only, and that's to empower creative people to do more of what they love. And as you guys may know, when you're on that creative journey, the things that usually get in the way of creatives doing more of what they love is, hey, I don't have access to the resources I need to be successful, or hey, I don't understand how to actually build a business around my passion so I can actually make the money to keep this thing sustainable, right? A lot of people talk about that idea of the starving artist, which is way outdated, right? And then third, it's like, yo, where do I go to be around like-minded people if I want to be creative and express myself, but I also want to understand myself as a creative entrepreneur? So Rec really was built to support creatives like us and being able to monetize our passion. And the way we do that specifically is we've got a space in Center City, Philadelphia with 14 private studios, from recording studios to podcast studios, photography studios. We've got a co-working space. We've got a Live Nation venue. So we've really built this ecosystem of creative tools, but we also run a creative agency where we get to work with brands of all sizes, from local businesses all the way up to the Lyft or Red Bull or Comcast of the world. And what we do when we work with those brands is we literally get to do creative work for them and go right back into our membership program and pay our members to do what they love. And over the course of the last, 8 or 9 years of this journey with Rec, I have had the privilege of getting to know hundreds of creatives. And what I learned really quickly was, no matter what kind of creative we were, whether you're a videographer or a singer-songwriter or an event producer, the steps to actually monetize in today's age of direct-to-consumer, which I'll break down in a little bit, they're really the same. It really comes down to these 10 basic ideas that I felt like I wish was common knowledge, right, for all creatives, but I learned over and over again that it wasn't. So that was actually what inspired me to write the book, Uncommon Sense, Your Strategy Guide to Creative Freedom. But for me, at the heart, it just comes down to this understanding, and I think really just makes up my DNA. It's this understanding that as creatives, we run the world, and as I'm watching this renaissance happen in the creator economy, we knew really early that creatives needed a very specific set of tools and resources if they were actually going to participate at the highest level in this economy that really has only been made possible over the last 15 years or so because of the advent of where the internet has gone, because of the fact that we all have these and can, be able to connect with the people who love what we create without having so much dependence on the middlemen. So I'm someone who deeply believes in creatives. I'm someone who deeply believes in creative freedom specifically, and someone who wants to use all of his gifts to be able to empower that current and next generation of creators.
Tell us how it would work when a person comes, doesn't really know everything about what Rec Philly does. They walk in the door, or they knock on the door, or whatever it may be. What's the process? Sure.
So folks pull up, and essentially, the first thing we encourage people to do is take a tour. Take a tour for free.
See what you have, see what's available to them in this space. Where is the space?
Exactly. Yeah, so the space is down in Center City. We're at 9th and Market. Okay. So we're in, what I still call the gallery.
It's now the fashion district.
They call it the fashion district now. $500 million later, after they redeveloped it, they swapped it out and called it the fashion district. But to all my Philly folks, y'all know it as the gallery. Yep. And we're up on the second floor there, 10,000 square foot space. Right. So yeah, when folks walk in, what's really cool is the front end of our space is a retail store. And the reason we did that was, we come from building this space out in a warehouse in North Philly, right? Really just thugging it out up 4 flights of stairs. But when we knew we were going to come to the fashion district, we said, hey, there's tons of our creators who don't have a point of sale, but are really, able to sell physical goods. So we have this retail store, which is literally one of the only places in that space where you can shop all local everything.
Right, because typically you'd have to be at the gig to get the T-shirt, the swag, what have you. Right?
That's right. But now it's like, let's say, an artist like Armani White, who's having tons of success, just got signed to Universal or to Def Jam. We've got his merchandise in the store available for pickup, or you can buy Tierra Whack merchandise in our store, or even buy a neon sign made by the artist Amberella, right? Or even just buy local coffee. But literally everything in our space was created locally. And that's kind of the front end. And then when folks are ready for a tour, we have a whole member facility in the back, and that's where those 14 private studios and the co-working space are.
Right, and I know I was there before, and you have like a back open area, and what's that used for?
Yeah, so that's co-working by day, that's a Live Nation venue by night. Okay. So for us, sometimes it's important to just have a place to get out of your home, right, and be able to think, to work. So the co-working space is really like, we think of it as almost the living room of our creative community. And folks bring their laptop, get on Wi-Fi, and be able to get done whatever they need. But then at night, we use it for all sorts of programming, mostly educational programming, teaching.
Like for instance, give us like an instance, for instance, what we do with the educational teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do this series that we love called Creator Talk. So just coming up, last month, we had a Creator Talk called The World is Listening, where we said, hey, for our audio-based creators, let's talk about what distribution looks like today. And we bring some experts from a distribution company to come and share their perspective on what is distribution, what should I understand, what's the difference between a TuneCore and CD Baby or an actual distribution deal. Just starting to unpack these things that are really important for creatives to understand, but sometimes can just be a little confusing, right? Our whole thing is like, I don't believe creatives are lazy by any sense.
Right, it's just they just don't have the access to all the information.
Right, and also even beyond that, it's like sometimes you just don't have the clarity of like, what exactly do I do next? So our whole aim is to be able to create that clarity. So we did that, last month about distribution. Coming next month, we actually have producer and DJ Don Cannon, who has been responsible for careers like Jack Harlow, Lil Uzi Vert, and other folks. So he's gonna come and do a fireside chat with me. And my whole goal is to say, hey, let's demystify what your career path has looked like so other folks can understand your story and then figure out how they can also chart a path of their own. Right. So tons of educational stuff like that. But then, of course, we come from live production and parties and concerts. Right. So just last weekend, we had the singer Umi come in and do a performance. We've had Questlove come and do a DJ set there at Rec. So the space has really just become this cultural hub of let's have fun, let's learn. And as we learn as a community, which I think is really important.
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions while we're going through this, please raise your hand and we'll get right to it. There's no need to wait till the end. So if anybody has a question, just pop it out there.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. I like it.
Hold on.
Do you want a microphone? Okay, cool. Hey, yo.
What's up?
I'm Ian. I'm sure you don't recognize me, but I used to be at your place.
Oh, cool.
On 9th and Diamond.
Yeah, up in the warehouse.
Yeah, I used to be cool with, or I still am cool. I still do a lot of shit with, excuse me, can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
We're here now.
Yeah, well, we're already in that boat, I guess. Hashland?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm
That's
really
the homie.
close with him. I used to work with him all the time. I used to be in his basement. I used to have a residency producing beats, doing shit there. And I love what you guys have done. You guys have
Thank
really
you.
Cleared space and, grown a lot since then.
Yeah.
And, watching you from where you at before, I got my own studio now. Do you know Makeshift?
Yeah.
Yeah, I work very, very closely with them.
Very
Their
cool.
whole thing with Lil Durk and whatnot, that was, we're all working together and whatnot.
Sure.
And but I'm trying to get out of there and sort of be on my own sort of thing. And I'm trying to, my main obstacle to that was like monetization.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you was, how did you create that sort of freeway from being on 9th and Diamond to being in the fashion district?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Ian.
Yeah.
So I can tackle that from a couple different angles, but let me try to be as succinct as I can with at least what our journey looked like, and then you can kind of take it and adapt it how you will. excuse me. I think the first thing that's incredibly important for all creatives to understand before they get into monetization is like, literally the first chapter of my book is, who are you? Right? I think sometimes we start talking about like, what revenue streams should I have and what partnerships? But before any of that, it's so direly important for us to understand like, who am I? What do I care about? What does success look like? What is my value proposition? And like, how can I add value to the world around me, right? So for Rec, like everything we do, if it's not about empowering creatives to do more of what they love, if it's not empowering creatives to turn passion into dollars, then we're not actually progressing. We actually just got distracted, right?
So it sounds like you're big in having a bigger message on top of what it is you already do.
Well, I think so. And that's my opinion, just because what we're talking about is entrepreneurship, right? How we're going to monetize. And like the reality is entrepreneurship is incredibly difficult. And I'd be doing you guys all a disservice if I didn't say that, right? And I'd even go as far as to say entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. But if it is for you, in the days when it's going to get hard, and it will get hard, it's going to get extremely difficult. For me, I've learned that when I'm doing something that I love, that I'm passionate about, that I actually like, excuse my language, give a shit about, that's the thing that helps me actually continue to progress and do the hard work and, you know, stick it out until the highs come back, right? So that's why I say that, like, figure that part out first. Because, like, if you're not operating, one, in a space that makes you happy, secondly, you're actually extremely good at, and third, the world needs, you're setting yourself up for a really difficult road. So that's why I think that whole who are you piece is first. And then after that, figure out how you can do that service, add that value in the smallest possible way, right? I always had the vision for us to have a beautiful space like what we have at Center City. I always had the vision for us to go to places like Miami, which we're about to do. But before I could do that and say, hey, investors, why don't you give me a few $1,000,000 to build this grand vision space? Right. You saw us at 9th and Dolphin first, right? We literally started in a room that was first 600 square feet. And we put a backdrop up on one wall, you know, with lights that were kind of terrible, but it worked for what we had. And we built a small recording studio for my buddy. And then our couch was the co-working space. Mm-hmm. And even though it didn't look as sexy as it looked now, the value proposition was clear. The conversations we were having on that couch were the things we needed to understand to program ourselves to be the entrepreneurs we wanted. And we'd share that information with other folks. And over time, we got to grow. We got to, hey, let's build a dedicated recording studio now, right? Let's build a collaboration room because we need that. Let's build a visual lab. And then when we got to the point where we had maybe 350 members or so up in North Philly, then we were able to go to investors and say, we have something special here. Hundreds of people are coming here and they're sweating, literally trying to watch this educational panel because we didn't have any AC at the time, right? So it's like we're solving a real problem. And being able to articulate that to the right people is what allowed us to be able to raise the multi-millions of dollars that we have to expand the vision of Center City. Right. And now that we've got proof of concept, hey, 1,000 active members in Center City, $1 million agency, we've given out almost $2 million to our members through agency gigs. Now we can leverage that and say, hey, we're ready to go on to a new city and be able to share our model with a community like Miami and then Atlanta and then eventually others around the world. So start there, who are you, that value, do the smallest possible thing first, and then over time, allow yourself to explore all of the ways to make money that are available to you. And, you know, you'd have to tell me more specifically about what exactly you do for me to give you that, but I think that's the concept that I think has helped us be successful.
Do you want to go into that now, or would you want to go into
Well, we should do that offline. We could do that
Sure.
afterwards, for sure.
Cool.
Want to keep kind of moving along.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for kicking us
And
off.
definitely afterwards too, is if you want to talk to Will, I'm sure he'll be around for a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's if you want to do some more offline kind of things. But
Yeah.
keep the questions
Yeah.
coming if you have them.
And if it's okay, let me say
Sure.
just a little bit more about the monetization thing in a way that I think will be more general and applicable to everyone. You know, in my book, Uncommon Sense, the framework, right? I think of it as a blueprint, right? And even better, I think of it as like an operating system for us as creatives to build our business on top of, right? And there's 3 sections. The first one is build, right? Which is all about, you know, building a powerful brand, right? We all talk about that word brand and sometimes don't really understand what that means. So we make it super plain in the book. After you build that brand, then you start building a community of people who believe what you believe, right? Then we start to talk about, okay, how do I engage these people that I have, right? Sometimes we always want to get more people, more fans, more, but it's like, are you even engaging the folks that already care about you effectively? So we talk about strategies on how to do that well. And then comes in the monetization piece, right? Like if you don't have a bunch of people already like knocking on your door, like, yo, I want to be around you, I want to get the value you have, then really you shouldn't be thinking too much about the monetization piece because you haven't proved the value first, right? But once it is time to monetize, then we start saying, well, what are the common revenue streams that are available to all of us, right? First and foremost, whatever your specific service is, if you're an engineer, yeah, go engineer for some folks, right? And give them really great products and their music. But then outside of that, it's, okay, well, what events could you be hosting, right? What about engineer meetups so we can all get in the session and be able to create together, right? And that's an experience that's valuable for folks. What merchandise can you be creating, right? Like all of us have the opportunity to say, hey, well, let me create t-shirts or clothing, or let me create custom mouse pads, because I know all of my fans are also producers and engineers and they all need mouse pads, right? Let's think outside of the box around how we can package that up. And then there's all sorts of other auxiliary revenue streams like content. Are you filming some of those events so you can put it online later, like you guys are doing here, getting that ad revenue, right? And then maybe it's really hitting off, and then all of a sudden you can start to get some sponsors who said, whoa, I love the series you have, and I love the quality, and I love who's watching. How do I give you a few $1,000 to be a part of the conversation so the people who love you can also love me next, right? So it's about just kind of thinking about all of those revenue streams that are available and then leaning into them. And then finally in the book we talk about protecting your intellectual property. So of course you can own your future as you grow and make sure that those are assets that can monetize even while you're sleeping.
Which is something that you really, especially as a creator and especially as a new creator coming into this business, is something that you really need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to understand songwriting splits, what publishing means.
Yep.
Those things are just as important as knowing how to use Ableton, believe me. Because, you know, the worst thing you want to do, and how a lot of people kind of fall out, is when they end up realizing that they're ripped off. I mean, we just watched a movie of Stax, and, you know, this is Stax. They had the biggest #1 hits on the planet for like 10 years in a row, and they realized at the end that they didn't own any of their artists or any of their masters.
Crazy. 7
years in. So they collapsed. They had to rebuild, and they did, but still, I mean, this is a record label that didn't read the fine print. And, you know, so it's like really important to understand that. And it doesn't have to be like every time you need something, you need an attorney. Like there's some very simple, that'll stand up in any court, as long as it's simple and it's clear. You don't need to run to an attorney every time you need to do a songwriter split, because you'll end up broke. Yeah. So what you have to do is figure out a nice, efficient way that you can cover yourselves between yourself and your PRO, your public rights organization, meaning ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Very important to understand that. And, you know, we have a great masterclass from Bernie Resnick, who was here, was a great attorney, and we're bringing in another attorney as well to talk about that. So that's the kind of stuff that's really important.
Yeah, and I just add a little to that, because I think you made a really great point. It's like, be great at your skill set, but then also know your business.
Right, you gotta know your business.
And the industry, you gotta understand how it works, because if you don't, you'll become a victim to the industry.
Somehow because somebody will take advantage of you.
Yep.
You know, and don't think, like the thing is, you know, a lot of managers and a lot of lawyers work for a lot of different people.
Yep.
It's not just now in your mind you might think, wow, this guy's, but you know, that guy or woman might be working with 20 different artists that you don't know about. So you've got to stay on top of your game. Hey, you know, like that squeaky wheel thing, like you want to make sure that you're on top of your game.
That's right. And then the one last thing I'll add to that is, now the final intangible, I think it's almost like a tripod. It's, are you incredibly good at what you do, skill set wise? Do you understand the industry you're in and your place within it? And then third, are you a good relationship builder?
Correct.
And I think that's the part that sometimes us like geniuses behind the boards or behind the camera, we neglect this idea of like, but am I good at building relationships? Do people want to be around me? And the reason that's important is because you have to think about it this way. In this business, almost 99% of the things that you want in your life are on the other side of another person. So if you don't understand how to create healthy relationships and have the mindset of give first, right? Add value before you ask for value, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get towards the goals that you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about some of the book as far as, you know, you talked about building your brand. You talked about, what are some of the other things that you'd like to pinpoint in here that's maybe uncommon
Sure. All right, so I'll start with this one, and I know you mentioned outside of building your brand, but I want to just say this because I know, actually, let me ask. How many of you guys have thought about or are building a personal brand? Dope, almost half of us, right? The first thing that I just want to kind of put out there that I think is going to be valuable for y'all is like, when we talk about branding, some of us understand it, some of us don't. I want to give everybody permission to like throw that word brand away and use the word that we're actually talking about, which is reputation. When you say, yo, I'm trying to build a brand, I'm building a brand, what you're really saying is, yo, I'm trying to build a reputation that is clear to people of who I am, what I represent, and what I care about, and that I'm good at what I do, right? So use that word instead. And when we start using that word, then it gets a little bit clearer of like the things we should be doing. And then just to go a little further, in my opinion, the most powerful tool that we have when it comes to branding is this idea of consistency. And when I say that, I don't just mean, oh, you gotta go online and post every single day, right? That's helpful, but you don't gotta do that. When I say consistency, I mean not in the sense of time, I mean consistency in this way. We are all communicators, right? And they say something to the effect of like, what you actually say out of your mouth is only like 5% of how you communicate to the world around you, right? How I'm dressed says something about who I am. Who I spend my time with says something about who I am, right? The work that I do, the partnerships I make says something about who I am. The most powerful piece of this, right, when I talk about consistency, is do all of those ways in which I communicate the same message. For example, I like to spend my time around hip hop artists, right? I spend a time with a lot of hip hop artists. I've had so many conversations where someone will be like, hey, Will, I'm super down to earth and I just want to make music that's relatable to people. You know, I'm just like a super humble guy. And while they're telling me that, they're literally wearing the biggest chain that I've ever seen before in my life, right? And I'm like, wait, hold on, that's not very relatable to me.
Buying $500 sneakers.
Right?
Yeah.
So then it's like what you're saying out of your mouth and what you're communicating to me in the visual, those messages aren't consistent. So what most fans will do is they'll just check out, right? And they say, I don't get it. But what they're really trying to say, and they don't have the language to say this, is you're actually giving me too many messages and I don't understand who you actually want to be to me, right? So I think when we start to talk about building our reputation and building our brand, think about that consistency and making sure, yo, the way your music is meant to make people feel when they listen to it, do people also feel that way when they go to your Instagram and look at your content? When they go to your website, right? That's what I mean when I say consistency. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think that'll be helpful for folks.
That's a great point. And another point that we was talking about your reputation, this is where it starts.
Yep.
Right here. This is what I said at the first meeting of us. This is your beginning of your network. Yep. Right now, you don't know all these different people. That's why we bring people like this in, so you can meet them. But at the same time, right now, this is the beginning of your network. So each and every one of you could maybe help each and every one of you at some point down the road. You know, you may end up being a publisher. You may end up being like an artist manager.
Yep.
You know, that publisher is going to need to get your artist to sign with that publisher, right?
Yep.
But that may not happen for 5 years. But at the same time, if you guys stay connected and you keep working, that's how that whole network kind of works.
That is the absolute truth. And I think sometimes we get too concerned about networking up.
Right.
Right?
I mean, you can network sideways is way more important too, because that's your bed.
Absolutely.
And that's the easy stuff. So if you can get 30, 40 people networked with, just by walking down the halls, a lot easier than trying to network to somebody at a publishing company in New York City.
That's facts.
And but you don't know, one of these people may be the cousin to the person who's at the, I mean, I'm serious. That happens all the time.
Yep, that's so true. So one other idea that I was going to share is about content strategy, because I know a lot of you guys are building brands and you want to get your music or your art out to as many people as possible. Clearly today, this is the way to do that, you know, in so many regards. But I only want to talk about it if it's like valuable to y'all. Do y'all want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the content strategies that I really believe in, and first and foremost, if you really are serious about building like your social community, like your reputation online, you have to have a strategy, right? Like they say, if you don't plan, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail, right?
Right, exactly.
And I don't mean you have to obsess over it and things like that, but you got to understand what is your goal when you get on Instagram. Because if you do not have a plan when you get on there, it has this way of just sucking you in. And all of a sudden you're spending all this time on there. You go to write your caption, you get anxiety because you're like, I don't know what to say, right? So I'm just gonna share, and I'll try to do it really quickly, the content strategy that I believe in, right? And we teach this at Rec all the time, and it's in the book. The content strategy that I like is called the Triple H content strategy. Has anyone heard of that before? Triple H? So it's called the Triple H content strategy because the idea is we all as creatives should be posting 3 specific types of content if we really want to grow our audience, if we want to put our best foot forward and build a reputation, and if we want to build a meaningful relationship with the people who follow us. The reason they call it Triple H is because each of these buckets, and I'm about to explain, all start with the letter H, right? The first kind of content we should all be posting is what we call hero content. Hero content is what we usually think about when we get on social media that we want to post. Those are like posting the wins. That's like, hey, I'm in the studio with my favorite person ever. That's, hey, I just got on Forbes, or I dropped my book, everyone go buy it, right? That's hero content. And the purpose of that is 2 things. 1, we hope that content goes as far as possible. I want everyone to know that I wrote a book, right? I want everyone to know that we're about to expand to Miami, those sorts of things. The second part about that is, we want that to represent us well. We want people to know us for those things. But on the flip side, writing a book or the press release for Forbes or all those big things, they sometimes happen few and far in between. So if we only show up to post those wins on social media, we probably won't be posting that often. We might post a few times a year, right? That's not gonna work to build a trusting relationship with your audience. So the second bucket of content, and I see some people taking notes, I like that, my people. The second bucket of content is what we call hub content. Hub content is not about going as far as possible. It's not about, hey, everyone, look at me, this is the coolest thing ever. It's specifically about deepening the relationship with the people that already follow you, the people who already know you and love you, and being able to show up and exchange that value that you want to be known for. So for example, if anyone follows me on Instagram, every now and then I post just little gems of just my perspective on things, how I think about things, talking about things that are like specific to entrepreneurship, but also talking about like imposter syndrome, right? Like things that us as creatives face. And the idea of this is it shouldn't be something that costs you a bunch of money or time to create, but you should be able to do it fairly consistently. That should be the thing that people follow you for, right? So what is it that you can just maybe once a week share with your community that you know is gonna add value and allow you guys to have a time to show up, right? TV shows understand this. I don't know what you guys' favorite TV shows are, but like when Insecure was on, don't talk to me Sunday night at 8 o'clock or whenever it was on, right? And the power of doing a TV show and it comes out every week at the same time is now trust gets built between you and that show, but it also creates a moment. And anyone else, you watch Insecure? If you know about Insecure, you also know that like on Twitter while the show is on, everyone else who loves Insecure also has a time to come together and talk to each other, right? So what I realize is when I'm posting that hub content, yeah, I add value to my community, but it's not just about me. It also creates a moment for people to connect with other people. And now they start to build relationships in the comments, right? And they start sharing insight. So that's a really powerful way to do that piece. And then the final piece of the content bucket is what we call help content. And help content is the stuff that we actually overlook most often, but it's actually the most powerful because this stuff is specifically about attracting new audience. And the way we do that is why it's called help content. What can you post that is literally only meant to go help people, right? Your next fan is literally on Google every single day asking it questions. If you know that, how do you create the content that you know is gonna be able to be the answer to somebody's question, right? You're gonna post the content that literally is gonna be the solution to your next fan's problem. What do I mean by that, right? The reason every company has a blog is not because they have someone in the company who just likes to write blogs. It's literally for SEO, right? Search engine optimization, which means that they said, okay, my next customer is typing how to make my 808s hit harder, right? Or how to get the best out of Logic Pro. So what happens is when they search that, since they just wrote a blog about the latest tricks and tips for Logic Pro, now they come up in that search engine And all of a sudden, as a consumer who had a question, I'm gonna click it. And if they teach me how to make my 808s hit harder, I may now notice that, oh, they also have a thing about hi-hats and how to get the best sounds on the cymbals, right? This and that. And then before you know it, you realize, oh, every week they host a conversation with industry experts. Now I'm watching that week over week. I'm getting all this value. So then when that same artist says, yo, I'm dropping a beat pack, get it right now, the fans are like, well, dang, you've given me so much value for free over the course of these last few weeks. Now I almost want to just reciprocate that value you gave me, so I'm gonna buy the beat pack, right? But if you didn't have that help content to go and solve their problem first, they're not coming into your world. If you don't have that hub content to nurture them slowly, right? It doesn't work. So that way, by the time you actually ask them for something like, oh, go get the book, or, oh, go download this thing, the relationship is built first. So that's all I'll say about that. But that's really how I like to think about content strategy. And if you really lean into these strategies, the content don't gotta be sexy and perfect every time. That's not important. But that strategy, your consistency, and your ability to show up in a way of, I'm on this platform to add value to my people, that's how you grow and that's how you win on social media.
Lucas?
Hey, what's up? I'm Lucas.
Peace, Lucas.
Super excited to have you here. So my question kind of combines a lot of the stuff between your book and Rec Philly.
Sure.
So when you were talking about the value proposition, what are you bringing to people? So as being like small, I've worked with a lot of like up and coming studios, people just starting, like trying to develop plans. And I think it usually always looks very similar to what Rec Philly did. And it's like, hey, let's open either a bunch of rooms in our location or let's expand in one city. And then when that goes well, let's move.
Sure.
And a lot of times it doesn't work. And so you have a different approach than just saying, oh, let's be, like book an hour or a couple hours here and pay for the engineer and stuff like that. So what do you think as far as bringing a different type of value with a similar kind of long-term trajectory? How do you think that balance contributed to Rec Philly's success?
Wow, that's a great question. And I'll answer it in one way, and if I don't really get to the heart of it, feel free to let me know and tweak me a little bit. I think the thing that made Rec stand out from the jump, before the studios and before the educational programming and before the agency, it's a mindset. I think that our generation was hungry for the mindset that wasn't in the space at that time. And what I mean by that is, where's my guy at? We were talking about this earlier. I believe that we came in with this abundance mindset that our generation was thirsty for. And what I mean by that is like a lot of the industry, especially in the music industry, it's not like the most friendly place, right? It's like dog eat dog, everyone's competing with each other, right? And like even to the point where it's like if my homie is an artist and your homie is an artist, I can't support your friend because that means that like that's an opportunity my friend won't get, right? Scarcity shit, right? And it comes from just like, a lot of us come from environments where like opportunities and resources aren't plentiful. But what we forget though is like opportunities are plentiful when we collaborate together, right? And instead of trying to look out for the biggest opportunity ever, it's like, no, let's start small and let's build together. So I think we came into the space with an energy of like, yo, we're better together. Our mindset and one of our quotes, our trademark slogans from the beginning was, independent doesn't mean alone. Like as if I'm an artist and you're an artist in Philly, I'm not competing with you. We're both competing with artists across the world. So why would I make you an enemy in my backyard when really we could be incredible collaborators? So I like to believe that when people come to our space, the first thing that like sells them and blows them away is like, dang, why is everybody mad nice here? And it feels genuine. Yo, people actually want to help. Yo, people are eager to collaborate. There's no envy in this space. And I think that's like really like the essence of what made us stand out. We don't even sell studio time by the hour. That's not our model. It's, yo, be a part of this, you're a member, and now you just get the app. You put your studio time on the calendar when you want to book the studio time. And we've got an app that allows that to be effective and efficient, but like right away we were like, yo, we're not doing what the old model is, yo, let me go and pay my 60, 70, 80 bucks an hour to get in the studio. It's like, no, you pay to be a member here, so we're all gonna share these resources. And I think it was just a refreshing thing when we came onto the scene. And that's the same energy we're going to take to Miami. Like, I'm not going to be like, hey guys, I'm the creative guy here, you know, listen to me. It's going to be no. There's people who are already doing amazing work for creators, and we're going to say, yo, we have a model that we know is going to support here, and it's going to be able to galvanize this amazing energy and talent in a way that isn't rooted in the pyramid of the old industry. You know what I mean? So that's what I think is really our differentiator.
I have a question.
Here you go.
Yo, what's up? My name is Ricky Valentine.
Peace, Ricky.
I'm an engineer,
The best name. Man.
That is a great name.
artist, producer. So, like, it sounds like Rec Philly probably took some ideas maybe from, like, Atlanta. Like, I'm from California, so we've always had that idea of, like, let's work together. And I find that coming from, being not from Philly, it's hard. Like, you know,
Yeah.
did you guys bring something from somewhere else? Were you inspired by something, or what brought about that mindset you guys have?
I'll tell you what I was inspired by. And don't get me wrong, I respect Dungeon Family, Atlanta, and all that energy. But I was inspired by Philly. People forget, and I'll give you a pass because you're not from Philly.
Right.
But like, come on, we had the Philadelphia sound. We had, you know, Gamble and Huff come through. They had a studio where like a whole generation of artists were coming through there. And like, to me, I was inspired by watching documentaries and hearing stories from Kenny Gamble where he's like, yo, you know, mother, father, sister, brother, you know, we're in there making a record, and then they walked out, and then Teddy P walked in, you know, and like, they just connected in passing, and then they ended up cutting a record. Like, they had that communal energy as well. And honestly, I feel like a lot of Philly's style has always been that level of collectivism, at least in these pockets. There was that, and then later on, there was this neo-soul movement that Philly was really instrumental in. And it was spaces like the Black Lily where artists could come together for open mics, and like, that's where the energy was. Jill Scott came out of that.
To be
right?
quite honest, I mean, I was a very big part of that. Being
Sure was.
involved in all that. And what Rec Philly's doing is basically what the studios were doing back in the 90s.
Yep.
Because you didn't need a Rec Philly when you had all these studios, because just like you said, I was at Sigma for 10 years as an independent
Yep.
producer, and that's how it happened. Patti LaBelle's getting coffee. Gerald Levert's sitting in the lounge.
Yep.
You know, people, Common is coming into my room doing stuff. So it was like all these people floating around that you would just, you know, Scott Storch would be in my office writing You Got Me. You know, like that kind of stuff happened all the time. And it was like day in and day out of people just coming in. And it was completely collaborative. It was completely, Patty would go, hey, like there was nobody like, don't touch me, don't,
Right.
you know, all kinds of stuff like that. I mean,
And that's how it feels at Rec.
and that's where the gap came from, because all those big studios closed.
Yep.
They just closed. K-Gem, Studio 4. Well, Studio 4 still in Conshohocken, but it was the scene in Philly that was happening at the time with Vidal and
Yep.
all those guys, because I used to engineer there too. So it was like, and it was that way because DJ Jazzy Jeff was floating around
Yep.
Studio 4 all the time. So every studio had their own whole collaborative situation that was, you know, an open door. I mean, you booked some time. Sure, you had to pay for some time, but then boom, you were right there with everybody in the fold.
Yep.
And you're right. once the whole business changed and the whole model with Pro Tools and digital and recording on your phone,
Yep.
then those studios closed, and that created a big void for that collaborative scene
Yep.
going on. And that really happened in the mid 2000s, where it really kind of dried up.
Yep.
And that's the scene.
And when, you know, when I said in the beginning, like, I'm sitting next to a legend, like, I wasn't saying that to be nice. Like, this is somebody who literally, like, Rec stands on the shoulders of giants like you guys, you know what I mean? And on the shoulders of giants like Gamble and Huff. So it's like, we weren't inspired by LA or inspired by Atlanta. We were inspired by home, you know, because this is just a new version of what Philly has always done, in my opinion.
Yep.
So.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And then also I'll say this too, you know, the other thing that I think I brought the energy of into our space is, you know, I studied communications in school, like some of you guys, and I also studied economics. And I happened to be in school when like Uber was coming out and Airbnb was coming out, right? And what's special about those models is they're resource sharing at their core. It's let me connect someone who has something with someone who's willing to give it to, or someone who needs that thing, right? Uber, fastest growing transportation company in the world.
With no drivers.
No cars.
No cars,
Right?
no
They didn't have to
drivers.
own any cars.
Right. Or hire any drivers directly.
Right? And then you think about Airbnb, fastest growing hospitality company. They didn't have to own any property to do it.
Right.
And when I saw that, my mind exploded because I was like, yo, when resource sharing comes to the entertainment space, where you can have a company that helps build some of the fastest growing talent, artists, and businesses without having to own the artist to do it, the world will be different. And you know, the history of Philly plus watching the resource sharing economy come together is what birthed the idea of REC.
Yep. Very good. Michael, do you have a question?
Quick question. Just keep in mind that I'm an instructor here, so
Sure.
keep in mind that everybody here, mostly teenagers, youngins, and everybody's in a hurry. Right?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
What I would love for hear you is talk about the process. About are there shortcuts? You know, your experience. You're sitting there talking from this depth of experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Making it sound, well, I can do that. But you know, and the technology gives us the illusion
Yeah, it
that
does.
it's easy. So, with that in mind, could you just
Elaborate on that.
I got you. Sure thing. Yeah, and thank you for that question. I'm gonna tell you guys right here. You wanna know the shortcut? The shortcut to success is accepting the long path. That literally is the shortcut. Like, in any of the people, and it don't even gotta be in our industry, like anyone who's like, yo, I can help you make $1 million in 10 days, they're duping you, right? They're trying to sell you a dream, you know? And it's like, as soon as you stop wanting it fast, the things start to unfold. Like, I'm blessed to be in a position right now where like, our success is getting people all over the world to hear about us, and like in some people's mind they're like, dang, Rec Philly's a overnight success. But like, it's so true that it literally takes 10 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
Like, we started Rec back in 2015, right, which is now what, almost 8 years ago, something like that. But even before Rec, we had another company. It was a production company called Broad Street Music Group, and we had I don't know if you know this, we had our launch party for Broad Street Music Group, our very first business, at Sigma.
Oh, when they took it over, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were there. But it's like, we've been doing this work since 2012. And even before then, you know, Dave and I, who fortunately the universe blessed us, we went to high school together. And even in high school, we're staying after school shooting short films and, you know, creating music with our friends.
Dave Silver.
Oh, Dave Silver, yeah, my business partner and co-founder. So we were doing this work since then. So for everyone who's like, yo, I really want to do something, you know, I have this passion to get to a certain space, give yourself 10 years for real, right? And it goes back to a little bit of your question too, and how I answered it. Like, if when I say give yourself 10 years to do your thing before you want to make it, and that makes you feel weird and you don't like it, you picked the wrong path. Because for real, if you care about what you do and the craft of it, you'll be like, all right, bet. I'll lock in for 10 years. I'll get as good as I can possibly be. But if you're like, I kind of want to be famous tomorrow, this ain't the industry for
And
you.
quite frankly, that's when you know if it's for you. Because sometimes this is just not for you. I
Yep.
mean, that's just kind of how it goes. It's not like just because you're, you know, you don't become, in this business, you don't become junior assistant songwriter, vice president songwriter. You know, you're like zero and then you get a song cover.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be in it because you love it.
Yep.
Because no matter what, this is what you want to do. Whether you're famous or not.
Yep.
All that stuff comes. But while you're doing it, you're just head down,
Yep.
meeting people, being very, very nice. Don't burn any bridges,
Yep.
because you know your reputation,
Yep.
not your brand, will follow you.
Right. There we go.
That's for sure. Yes.
That's real.
Hold on.
My question is, right now you're hot.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on you. I'm just saying you're hot.
Sure.
And that's
No, I
clear.
get it.
It's clear from your
Thank you.
conversation, from your business that you're hot. What kind of things do you do to maintain your success? And once you get up top, how do you stay there?
Ooh, that's an amazing question. So right now, we're in a moment, you know, and humbly, there will be many more moments like this of elevation. To me, one of the things that I've had to integrate into my life to even just maintain where I'm at is I'm a firm believer in meditation, you know, because like to get here into this hot space, like takes long days, long nights, the consistent grind and all of that kind of stuff. You know, like even to be here with y'all today, like I took a flight at 5:45 this morning from Atlanta just to be here, you know what I mean? And like, I go to Pittsburgh tomorrow. So I've noticed for me, and I'm leading my team in between that, right? And doing all these things, I have to get my meditation in every day. because that's like what gets me back centered to who I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing. It allows me to like quiet all the noise, right? In order to really just like act with intention. Because I think like, and we were talking about, you know, social media leads us to feel like we got to get it today and tomorrow, right? All of that is just noise. And what I've learned is in life, especially as an entrepreneur, there's going to be tons of opportunities to take, right? Right now, a lot of people, it's a blessing, are reaching out and they're giving opportunities to us, right? But just as many opportunities are out there, there's a shit ton of distractions. And the challenge is opportunities and distractions look a lot alike, right? Yep. And the only difference is one is going to get you closer to your end goal and one won't. And to me, again, that who are you piece, what do you want and all that stuff, if you're not rooted in that, right? If anyone gives me an opportunity and it doesn't allow me to empower creatives to turn their passion into profit, their passion into dollars, I got distracted, you know? So for me, the tool of meditation is like, that allows me to stay clear enough to be like, Will, walk in your purpose. Don't be out here trying to just post on Instagram to look cool. Be valuable. You know what I mean? So like, I just say that when that mindfulness piece, honestly, is one of the things that I credit a lot of my success to. Because it gets noisy when you hot. Sure. Thank you for that question.
Any more questions coming up? Yes.
So I've been wanting to actually create a space in the Pottstown areas for people like in this industry.
Yeah.
Like us, and I wanted to structure it sort of like a support group where we would meet like maybe once a week and just talk about what projects we're working on, and more importantly, like the emotions that you're feeling from that.
Yeah, man.
And my question to you would be, how would I get people interested to join this space? And what is the best way to go about starting this project officially?
Sure. The first step is to start. Straight up, you know, like.
You want a buddy.
Right. Exactly.
And
like.
and have him invite the next person.
That's exactly right. Find your homies. Y'all start having those conversations. And then use this to help other people know that those conversations are being had. And that's what's going to get people to say, hey, man, are you going to do this again? Can I jump in? And just do that in that organic way, you know? And I promise you, if you create those spaces and they're valuable for people, they're not going to keep it a secret, you know? And once you allow the value, you know, to let people organically spread the word, then it's going to build and all that. I would actually just say, like, don't think about in the beginning making it hell of official and like doing all these things that make you feel good in the ego of like, oh, I got my LLC and like I got a really great logo and all. Like, yeah, that's good to market and brand and all that, and then protect your intellectual property. But in the beginning, just start, you know, and let that kind of blossom.
Yeah, oftentimes people think I need an investor to do this, I need somebody to do that. All you need is yourself and an idea.
That's it.
And if you're true to yourself as far as your individuality, that will be a unique situation because we're all very unique. Yep. Simple. It's not like, well, how am I going to be original? Just whatever you're thinking is going to be original thought. So try to keep that in mind as well. You don't need other people to do things for yourself. You just need to do it yourself and continue and grow your network.
That's facts.
Listen, I'd like to really thank Will for being here today. Everybody give a nice round of applause for him.
Thanks, sir.
I appreciate you very much, my friend.
Appreciate you, man.
Very nice to have you here. Let's talk about how do they join Rec Philly?
Yeah, so feel free to hit us up online, Rec Philly.
And how do they do that?
Sure. RecPhilly.com is our website, recphilly.com. Go on there. You can go to recphilly.com/tour, and that'll be the best place for you to set some time aside, come down, see what we're all about, feel the vibe, and our team will help you get onboarded if you're interested. And then I would also say Instagram, right? Follow us on Instagram. We're always talking about what's going on, even before taking a tour and joining membership. Come out to some of our events, meet some of our people. I think that's a good first step. And then also I'll say, if you guys like what we've been talking about, you know, with the book, there's plenty more value in there where this all came from. So if you want to check this out, you can go to recphilly.com/shop and you can be able to grab your own copy of Uncommon Sense. And actually I have a few copies here today as well if anyone wants to grab them. So, you know, grab this, use it, it's valuable, but also recphilly.com, come check us out, hang out.
Once again, thank you very much.
Thank
All
you
right,
guys.
that concludes our master class for MCC, our Montgomery County Community College SRT and MSP programs. Thank you very much.